Welcome on the first community hangout this year. So it's the first event in 2021. We have pretty much good agenda today. We will start with Composer 2 updates for the Magento 2.4. After that, we will have a topic on PHP 8 migration, and also, like in the end, we will have a huge topic about performance improvements and support of 200 million schools in your catalogs. So, Max, go ahead.
Hi everyone. Could someone confirm me that you can see slides?
Yep.
Yeah,
we can see.
Okay, great. Hi everyone one more time, and to someone who does not know who I am, I'm Max Lesechko, Senior Software Engineer at Adobe. And today we are going to talk about a bit about upgrade, like adding support of Composer 2 to Magento 2.42 version. It is great that we have this session today, day after GA date for 2.42. I think someone of you already have this version installed. Maybe someone of you even tried to install it Composer 2. I think you should not have, I believe you don't have any problem with it, but if you have, please let me know. I need to update this slide and change to the next patch version of Magento. Okay, and let's move forward to what we have today. So first I would like to start from brief overview what is Composer is, not in deep details, but about some funny stuff about Composer. So first of all, Composer, as you know, this is Magento dependency manager for PHP written in PHP. Why I want to mention it? It is important sometimes. Maybe some of you already even tried to debug Composer for some specific cases, and this is a funny thing to do. And it is great that it's written in PHP, and we can not only guess how it works, but sometimes fix. It allows us to debug it, understand all the internal processes, and adjust our plugins, which works with Composer. Initially, this tool was developed by Niels Ederman and Georgi Bogiano in 2012. For information from Wikipedia, nothing new, but and these guys were inspired by Node npm and Ruby's bundler when they created this tool. And many of you remember how this tool became more famous, and right now this tool is, I would say, the most important tool in the PHP world. You're familiar with the Packagist, which is the main open source repository. Why I say open source? Because this is for open source projects, and there is a counterpart of it, which names as Packagist.com, which is private Packagist. I think some of you familiar with this tool as well. There is also software which allow you to have your local Composer repository, install it, configure it. So technically, and we as Magento developers, we're familiar that we have dedicated Composer repository, which is named repo.magento.com, and many of us, maybe all of us, are using it as well. So, Composer 1 was initially developed, created about 9 years ago, and just a few months ago, the next major version of Composer 2 was released. It was on October 24, 2020. And at that date, our journey began. We just, after the release of Composer 2, we realized that we wanted to have support for Magento of Composer 2, and we did not have a lot of time to implement it because of we expected to have Magento 2.42 release pretty soon in 1.5 months after that, 2 months if we are talking about GA release, but we have some other stuff which we need to do, and we have code freeze feature complete date early for it. So let's review what we have new in Composer 2. So in Composer 2 there is a few cool things which was added in there, as well as breaking changes. They all came together all the time. The most important thing in Composer, okay, not maybe the most important, but one of them is performance improvement. Composer team, they did changes to the architecture, they did changes to protocol communication with Composer repositories. They also did significant changes in the processes, how Composer process installations. A lot of changes in there, which resulted in at least 50% performance improvement for this tool, which is significant. And one thing which they added in Composer 2 is downloading in parallel. Many of you already familiar with extension Prestissimo, which we use for Composer 1. They added similar behavior for Composer 2. I think it is even better. Maybe it feels better, maybe because of all other improvements, but this is it doing similar thing. And author of Prestissimo has on this plugin of Composer knows that we don't need it use anymore with Composer 2 because it's already was done there. Next one thing, which is a new thing about Composer 2 is deterministic update. Process is different, and we will discuss. I will explain it later, but I wanted to give some insights right now. So the most the most important part of it, Composer 1 was kind of from point 1 to point 2, just one single process. So it resolved dependencies per each package and tried to update this package, resolve dependencies in there. And after that, final step was updating the log file. With Composer 2, we have two stages. One is update stage, and another one install stage. So at update stage, Composer analyzes all the dependencies and write Composer log before even update starting, but it checks all the inconsistency which can be in there. So technically, previously we may had some unexpected errors because of the code which we have in Composer log or we have in vendor directory, and you pretty worry about this general recommendation like remove Composer log, remove vendor directory, and try to install from the very beginning. So Composer 2 should not have this issue anymore because of the process. And as I mentioned, on update process, we resolve all the dependencies and update Composer log. And after that, it dispatch a few more actions and start processing packages and install them. But this process is more reliable. You can find more technical details in the description. There are few articles about changes to Composer 2. You can find deep technical details there. But this is a summary of what they did in there. Runtime features. This is like pros and cons at the same moment. So runtime features is added validation of the PHP version and extensions of PHP, which is optional each time when you run Composer update. So previously, these values can be ignored, and this may cause issues later after Composer was run. And there was additional flags which needs to be used for it, but right now This is enabled by default, and installation will be failed if you don't have proper version of PHP or all the required PHP extensions in there. Error reporting was improved, and guys from Composer team, they say that right now error messages should be shorter, clear, and less repetitive. And you can see error reports now. If you will break anything, you will see them. And yeah, we'll see what will be feedback from community on this change, but they look nicer. And partial updates. This is cool feature as for me. You know, when we do development, we all the time wanna maybe change some version of the library just to check our idea. And previously we need to use require instruction for Composer, which leads in updated Composer JSON, changed Composer log, and sometimes we can forget about it. We can commit it, push it. So right now we have this feature, which is Composer update, and you can specify module name and constraint of it. And the dependency will be updated, but this will no effect on Composer JSON or Composer log, which is good for local development. Backward incompatible changes caused by this is changes to plugins. Like this is new API for plugins, so technically this will affect plugins. Platform check feature, which I mentioned before as right time feature, this also will result in errors for some deployment cases, but this is better to know that you don't have a proper environment before you proceed with your deployment process. Repository priority, this is important thing. Right now, if you have a package present in your main repository, for example, you install Magento from repo magento.com, it means if package is present in repo magento.com, all the versions of this package needs to be present in this main repository. And this feature will ignore available versions from packages or any third-party like secondary repository. And we need to maintain this consistency. This, what I heard, this significantly reduce amount of traffic to the packages. That's this benefit for Composer team. I completely understand it, but right now we will have consistent state for at least your main repository. And PSR 0, PSR 4 configurations, in short, they should be correct. If they're incorrect, you will see failures, and this is expected. During upgrade, during adding support of Composer 2 for Magento 2.4, we faced it with the following, the following backward incompatible changes affected our code base. Plugins, repository priority, and PSR issues with PSR configuration. So issues with PSR configuration was fixed in the code. Repository priority was easy to fix. We just uploaded missed packages. And we moved forward with fixing of plugins. Here is the list of Magento plugins that we released a new version of these plugins. Here is the list of third-party plugins. These plugins were updated by community. We just use a new version of it, and libraries. One of these libraries was updated. Also, we have a new version of it. Yeah, I'd like to thank you, community, who participated in fixing of some issues. I'd like to thank you, Peter, who created pull requests which allow us to fix existing issues with Magento Zen Framework 1. I would like to thank you, many other of you who did your contributions for Magento Composer Installer and Magento Inventory Composer Installer, and sorry, development team they did not find your contributions, and we was limited in time that we just developed it from the scratch, and we ignored your contributions. Sorry for that. So you see a list of new versions which already supports Composer 2 and Composer 1. So we preserve backward compatibility for Magento plugins, and we preserve backward compatibility for Zen Framework 1, and it automatically exists in third-party plugins. I wanted to show you also, you see highlighted right now two plugins which are hosted on repo Magento.com. All other plugins are hosted on packages. This is not very important, but maybe you wanted to know it. These two plugins are hosted only on repo Magento.com. There is no information. There is no packages on packages. Issues which we faced with. Common change which we will need to do for all our plugins. This was changes to plugin interface, which resulted in missed public methods for plugins implementations across all the plugins. We did this change. Also, we updated dependencies, adding support Composer version 2 and Composer plugin API version 2, which was easy to do. And also there were functional changes for two plugins, for root update plugin and Magento Composer installer, which required development and a lot of testing because of with Composer root update plugin, we was safe, kind of safe, but we also needed to test our solutions with multiple versions of Magento, because and the same for Composer installer. Because as soon as we release these packages publicly, Magento version 2.3, 2.4, all the versions will get in a latest version of this plugin. So we need to test upgradability, and this was not easy to do. Test upgradability, because we need to predict that upgradability will work with Composer 2, but we did not have any previous version of Magento which will work with Composer 2, and we tried to do some surrogate testing with it in order to be sure that it works as expected. That's it, I guess. I will not provide technical details how we fixed it. You can find fixes in the code, some of them in public repository, and you can find fixes in code of Magento root Composer update plugin. You can find information about changes related to Composer 2, how to upgrade to it. I think if you want to upgrade your plugins that you have for your system or project, you can find two articles about upgrading of it and features and everything related to Composer 2, and you can find a lot of existing performance measurements done by different teams related to different projects. And if you have any questions, you can ask. We have a few minutes more, or you can ask me in chat.
Yeah, we have one question from Stepan. How do you handle Magento update tests, DB compare tests, for example? I believe it's related when we should have like two different Magento versions, the previous Magento with Composer 1 and the new version with Composer 2.
Okay, database compare test is not about Composer, it's about installed Magento. So technically, if you do it on your local machine, this is easy to do it. Just install one version with Composer 1 and another with Composer 2. And database compare is just running CLI tool, which compare two states of the database. If we are talking about changes to the build, this is a tricky question. Yeah, you need to do adjustments. It's not easy to do. I hope I answered your question about how to compare it. So database compare is unrelated compared to the installation process. Like if we are talking about installation process. But if we are talking about automation of it, yeah, you need to use some ifs and try to cover all this stuff. Any other question? Does I answered your question?
Yeah, thank you.
And we also tried to use surrogate testing when we updated some of dependencies of the previous Magento version, and after that we was able to upgrade to the next version of Magento using Composer 2. But this, as I mentioned, this surrogate testing, we just wanted to test it because we did not have any version, any previous version which supports Composer 2, and this was kind of challenge for us.
Okay, thank you, Max. So yeah, platform health and platform technology stack, it's really important to Magento, especially like the big steps when we need to update to the next major versions. So it's really a big chunk of work. So guys, if you have any questions, just put the questions to the chat and we will answer the question asynchronously while someone talking on the next topic. Okay, and the next topic is about migration to PHP 8. So Sergii, go ahead.
Hello, guys. Hello. Oh, some after mute is going here. Hello, everyone. So my name is Sergii Ivashchenko. I'm from community engineering team. And yeah, so Max started this Hangout with Composer 2, and think I will continue because Composer 2 was actually probably the first step on the way for our compatibility with PHP 8. This is one of the requirements, and some of the dependencies were updated as well during the Composer 2 upgrade. And yeah, I will touch Composer topic as well. So I guess Composer is really popular. Still, will try to do really fast with my presentation because I believe you guys are also excited about 200 million SKUs story. Sharing my screen. Can you see the first slide of my presentation?
Yep.
Good. So today I'm going to tell you about Magento 2 and PHP 8 plans and our experiences starting the community project on PHP 8 compatibility. But first of all, let's review the PHP releases and support approaches. So basically, PHP is releasing a new version every year. And once it's released, it has 2 years of active support, and on top of that, 1 year of security support. So in general, each PHP release is supported for only 3 years. That means that 7.3 version is reaching its end of life in just 9 months, and 7.4 is reaching end of active support in 9 months, and then we'll have just 1 year of security support. And next autumn, we'll have PHP 8.1 in addition to 8 that we are working on compatibility right now. So considering that rapid schedule, that's always a good idea to take a look on your environments and update not only the frameworks as we do it, but also the environments, the instances. So each PHP release is bringing a lot of features, a lot of new cool functionality to us, and PHP 8, considering that is a major upgrade, is bringing even more cool stuff. I will not focus on PHP 8 features in this presentation. However, I would like to show you the results of the surveys that we have published recently and just collected the interest from Magento community, like which features from PHP 8 do they think are interesting and should be used in Magento 2. As you can see, the most votes are for constructor property promotion, and I really support in that, probably saving lots of lines, lots of typing, and lots of time, considering how Magento classes usually look like. There are always lots of properties you need to define, and constructor property promotion feature is just simplifying that a lot for coding, from coding types, from coding perspective. Union types, probably the second place as of now. The survey is still going on, and union types is probably a useful feature for like making strict types more flexible, and maybe upgrade from non-strict types to strict types can be smoother. Attributes are on the third place right now, and attributes are really cool, a cool feature that I believe this is the feature that will have the most ideas, the most new implementation around it, because that's really something that is ready for our and your creativity. Let's see what we can come up with. The null safe operator is kind of convenient. And yeah, so each PHP release, probably each PHP release is bringing slight performance optimization to us anyway, but PHP 8 contains the option of just-in-time compilation that has a really high potential for performance improvements. Once we will be able to install Magento on PHP 8, like some middle point in PHP 8 compatibility project. Probably we can check it and do some metrics. However, the side effects of all the features that we are getting are always backward incompatible changes, and there are lots of them in PHP 8. They are as low as string to number comparison was changed, and lots of other stuff, like a lot of changes in exceptions, warnings, notices, like lots of notices became warnings, lots of warnings became exceptions. So we'll have better error reporting, I guess. Also, the configuration was changed, and so on. Now, let's take a look on how do we actually update to PHP 8. So while this presentation is based on the plan that I have prepared for Magento 2, but I believe the approaches described here are applicable for any project and actually for any upgrade to any PHP version, because basically the approach is the same. First of all, we cannot do everything at once. We have to divide the upgrade process at least in 2 stages, because at the beginning, from the scratch, the project cannot be executed, so we cannot have the runtime project on the latest PHP version. First, something should be done, and this something is dependencies update. So all the composer dependencies have to be updated to PHP 8 compatible version before we can install the whole project on PHP 8. And while we are updating dependencies, we still cannot check the project on runtime and test it with extensions, but we can start working on the code base using the static analysis. So static analysis, static tests, probably the migration guide from PHP can help us to start preparing the code base, but it should be finalized on the second stage. So the second stage is when all the dependencies are updated. We can install the project in our infrastructure, run tests on actually PHP 8, stabilize the project, and as the main project, in this case Magento 2, is already compatible with PHP 8, we can start working on the extensions that have the main project as dependency for them. And complete the work on the extensions and test everything together, and finally finalize the upgrade. And yeah. So talking about Magento 2, at the beginning of the project, there were 32 dependencies that are already compatible with PHP 8. 23 dependencies had to be updated. Some of them are already updated in scope of PHP 8 compatibility community project. And there are 12 dependencies that are still working on their PHP 8 compatible version. So that's also something to take a look, to pay attention to, because not all the dependencies, not all the projects are also providing the compatible version for new PHP version at once. The challenges that we faced during the first month of the project running is, well, first of all, backward incompatibility. There we had to address double backward incompatibility when we are talking about dependencies, because first of all, PHP 8 is bringing some backward incompatible changes. And secondly, there are even more backward incompatible changes coming from the new versions of dependencies, actually, because we have to update to the PHP 8 compatible version of dependency. That sometimes is a major version upgrade. And apart from just PHP 8 compatibility, there are additional changes that are backwards incompatible, and we have to adjust to them. One of the challenges you can face as well is limited PHP version compatibility. For example, on our project, we would like, so right now, the project is based on the code from 2.4. 2.4 develop branch, and 2.4 develop is supporting PHP 7.3, 7.4, and we are adding the compatibility of PHP 8. That means that we have to be compatible with all the three versions. And not all the dependencies can be compatible with all these three versions. In this case, we'll need to support several versions of the same. And well, yeah. And that's basically applies to all the dependency updates, because if we are working even on the last dependency update, we still cannot test the project on the, well, probably on the last one we can, but one before the last one still cannot test it on PHP 8. So this can be, this risk can be reduced by testing the project on the previous PHP version in combination with some static tests that are covering changes of PHP 8. One big challenge is also the cross-dependency between the dependencies. And limited compatibility between them, and limited compatibility of the dependencies to the PHP as well. All of this in combination makes task decomposition for such upgrade much more complicated. So there are dependencies. We have to wait until certain packages to be updated before we start other work. Composer lock conflicts. So yeah, I do remember that we probably had a conversation. I believe that that Max was also participating in this, like if we need composer lock in the repository in general. However, in scope of the PHP 8 upgrade, I think that composer lock does help to ensure that there are no side effects from some patch updates of additional dependencies while you are focusing on some specific dependency update. But still, if we are working in parallel on several dependencies to be updated, there will be composer lock conflicts. Just something that needs to be faced during such project execution. And finally, the stale projects. So the technology is evolving really fast. New projects are emerging, and old projects sometimes can be abandoned. So there is always a risk when you update into the new PHP version, for example, that your dependency will not release a new PHP compatible version. In this case, different approaches can be applied, like switching to more active project, or maybe helping out with this project if this is open source. And basically, that's what we used to work with in community engineering team, right? Or maybe just elimination of this dependency. The tips for updating the dependency. First of all, before starting the investigation, before starting an update of certain package, take a look if they have a dependency migration guide. Usually packages do provide such documentation. There is very nice migration guide for most of Lamina's components, especially for major versions, and that can save you a lot of time. Additionally, to analyze that cross-dependency, to see, to plan for dependencies update on the project, the dependency tree or dependency graph is very useful. And there is a nice feature on GitHub website. That's GitHub dependency graph. Check it out. It's turned on by default for open source repositories. For private repositories, it has to be turned on in settings. And they're displaying a really nice dependency graph, navigatable right on the website. For sure, you can generate the dependency tree locally using composer depends --3, and that can generate the dependency tree for whole project or just for specific package as well. Now to the codebase update. So for codebase update, I see three stages. The first, as I already described, is just while the dependencies are not updated, the code base can still be tweaked. We still can start work on the code base using the static analysis, static testing. Then when the project can be executed in the runtime, we can use tests on runtime or just execute tests on runtime and stabilize on the latest version, ensure that it is working. And finally, all the extensions can be connected, and the whole project with all the extensions can be tested as a whole and finalized. The challenges for codebase update is, so static analysis can be used from the first stages. However, static tests are also a project, and they have to be also adjusted to the latest PHP version. In our case, we are using PHP compatibility project for our static tests for PHP 8 compatibility project, and they still haven't released a stable version covering the PHP 8, the tests for PHP 8 changes. That's why we are using a developed version right now that is providing still a lot of valuable information. But yeah, that's something. So static tests have to be prepared as well to use them. And yeah, codebase cannot be fully tested, and changes to codebase cannot be fully tested on the target PHP version until the final dependency is updated. And as for the tips, as for dependencies migration guide, in this case, PHP is providing a very nice migration guide. So also before going into investigation, how to replace certain functionality, how to refactor it for the compatibility, check out the PHP migration guide. There are brilliant examples and lots of useful information that can save time. For static tests, even if static tests are not available, development version of static tests can give you the information, right? That's you don't need to wait until the stable release that just a static test. Still, its output needs to be evaluated, so it can help you a lot. And finally, not only your project is going to update to PHP 8. We all are facing this update in the PHP world, and probably we are facing the similar issues. So interacting with community, maybe posting a problem that you faced or looking if somebody has communicated about this problem is helpful. And finally, a closer look at the project itself. So project is based on PHP. We are working PHP 8 develop branch. The PHP 8 develop is a name, and this branch is available for not just for Magento core repositories, but for all extensions, all Magento projects, basically. And this branch is based on 2.4 develop and is synchronizing with 2.4 develop branch for now. So the compatibility on this branch is PHP 7.3.7.4, and we are working on 8.0 compatibility. The documentation can be found on Magento 2 repository wiki. Just go to the GitHub wiki and you can easily find the project page in the sidebar on the right side. There are links for documentation for all the projects, including PHP 8 compatibility. And also, if you are not watching the Magento Dev blog yet, I recommend you to do so, because we have already done a couple of updates on the project on Magento Dev blog. We are also doing and planning to do regular updates on all the projects we are working with. So a lot of useful information is coming to Magento Dev blog. If you don't know how to find it, just Google Magento Dev blog. I think it will appear somewhere on top of the results. So as all other Magento projects, we have a separate dashboards track our backlog and track our pull request. If you are interested in our progress or interested in participation in the project, just go to the GitHub Magento 2, switch to Projects tab, and you will find PHP 8 compatibility backlog and PHP 8 compatibility PRs for pull requests. Boards there, where you can see all the tasks and all the pull requests in appropriate states. And as you can see on the screenshot here, the work is actually going on, and a lot of things are in progress. A lot of things are already done right now for the project. And I would like to thank you to the contributors who have participated at the PHP 8 compatibility project from the early stages. Well done, thank you guys. And also thanks to the contribution partners who were involved. That's very nice when the company is engaging the developers in the open source collaboration. That I believe that's beneficial for everybody. And yeah, if you're working for solution partner, or if you're a solution partner and you're still not on our contribution program, please contact us and we will enroll you. And yeah, basically that's it. I would ask you to please scan this barcode. It will lead you to the survey where you can provide your opinion on PHP 8 features and what PHP 8 features are you interested in and what should be used in Magento. We will use this later on because PHP 8 compatibility is just the first step, and sooner or later we will have to go for the support. Thank you for your attention, and I am open for your questions.
Thank you, Sergii. So yeah, thank you for sharing the plans for bringing PHP 8 to the Magento. So guys, join the public project, share your vision, check the dev blog, so we will have more things coming here. So yeah, guys, we have not so much time left, so let's move on to the next topic. And Sergii, please check the chat regarding the questions, and we will try.
Yeah, sure. I will answer the questions in the chat. Just post them there, guys. Cheers.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the next hot topic, to the last one for today. So it's performance optimizations and large catalogs. So Vitalii, go ahead.
Hello. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to support 200 million ESQs and even more. So my presentation is divided into two parts. So the first one is about optimizations that we've done on a Magento core in order to support storefront side. And the other part is about indexation improvements. So let's move on. So yeah, performance fixes overview. One of the most annoying problems that we faced recently was an issue with the customer sections. That issue leads to really huge unnecessary web traffic. So if you see like the picture right now, so it shows like 60% of whole traffic is the customer section load. You definitely have this issue. I would suggest you to check the latest releases. Everything is fixed regarding this. So recently we had like 3 or 4 requests in addition to one. So yeah, if user come to your website, Magento generated 3 additional or even 4 additional requests to Magento core, which leads to unnecessary traffic. So that's how it works right now. It's already fixed. So right now it's no invalidation without proper trigger. Invalidation happens only based on rules that is described on section XML. We made some changes in the core logic, so now customer sections they are independent from the private cookie version, and section card reloads only on store and website changes. So right now, if you open Magento websites, there will be no additional HTTP requests to the Magento core, so you will see much more like better performance because of that. The next one is we presented level 2 cache. So generally it saves traffic. So we transfer up to 10 times less data. We store this cache locally and we prevent Redis loadage. Let's see how it looks like. So on the left side we see the common cache adapter. The yellow line is a Redis. On the right side you can see like the same testing approach but with a level 2 cache. We see that Redis response become much better. Let's see how we improve it even more. So yes, this is how traffic goes. So with a common cache adapter, we transfer like up to 100 megabytes per second, and with level 2 cache only 800 kilobytes. So yeah, it's also leads to slightly better memory usage. So here is the traffic of live client. We applied level 2 cache to live client, and you can see that you can barely see the Redis response. So the green arrow shows you the timeline when we applied it, and on the throughput side you can see that throughput went up really easily, and Redis is not like the bottleneck anymore. And so how even get a better result? So we introduce a preload feature. So that means, so generally speaking, like Magento loads more than 50 or even 16, sometimes 100 independent pieces from Redis side. And we made some preload features that allows you to generally to load all the data in one request. Let's see the difference. So on the left side common cache, on the middle level 2 cache, and on the right side you see that Redis is not like a thing anymore. And we face the PHP issue, which shows us like we have a better throughput, we have less Redis response time, so please go check documentation. It will help you to support really huge catalog. Also, we have like 2 more features regarding this. We have stale cache. What it's doing, like it fixes some common issue with the lock mechanism. So if you're struggling with actually locks, you can use them. So what stale cache do is like, meanwhile the new cache is generating, it serves a stale one, and it's really like it will not take a lot of amount of time, but for some client it's really like a business case. And the last one feature about this is a parallel generation. So does it mean that logs is never squared, and meanwhile one process is generating, the other one is allowed to generate the cache and serve cache too? So yeah, we have documentation about it, and it will help you if you have like a large amount of block cache, if you have a large amount of config data. And the next part, so what's happening with indexation, how we support it from index side. Is the profile that we used. It's in the enterprise edition. And you can see that we generated 6 million simple products, 160,000 configurable products, 6,000 categories. So in total, it's 250 million effective SKUs on our account. So previously, the maximal amount that we tested was 10 million. Let's see how it goes. So at the beginning, we had issue with the product EAV index, and it runs like more than 12 hours. So I stopped the processes, checked the documentation, and guess what? It appears that after we use Elastic as a so we have right now we have dependency on Elasticsearch, and with search indexer on Elasticsearch, we can just turn the EAV indexer off. Yeah, we have it in official documentation. So if you're using Magento 2.4 and 2.4.1, 2.4.2, you can just turn EAV indexer off. But you need to double check that your extension doesn't rely on EAV indexer, because we eliminate all dependencies from Magento core side. So what's next? We struggled with category products index, which runs around like 3 hours, and a stock index that never ends. We wait like a couple days. And I want to mention that we made this reindexation in a parallel mode. We also have a documentation about it. So that our search indexer and product price indexer, they are split into dimensions, so you can use PHP threads advantage to make reindexation in parallel mode. Yeah, so stock index is the next issue, and what we fixed, yeah, we have small amount of batches, like only 200 products per one batch, and we fixed some performance issues. So we found that stock index tried to reindex product types that even don't exist in the system. It's already fixed in 2.4.2. And also we found some MySQL queries that were fixed. We used limit and offset in MySQL request, and as you guess, in a 10 million table, it leads to performance issues, so we rewrite it. And starting from next release 2.4.3, we support the batch sizes for the indexers that you can set in env.php file. So the documentation is coming. It will be on an official website. Also, we will write a dev blog article for dev blog. So yeah, it definitely will help you if you're struggling with some indexer. You can go ahead and use it and find the best numbers for you that works for you. So after we done this improvement, like fix the batch size, rewrite the MySQL queries, and eliminate code errors, we run stock index with this profile within 21 minutes, which is pretty fast, I guess, in 8 threads. So the next one, as I showed you, was category product indexes. We also rewrote some queries, but because category product indexer cannot run in a parallel mode, that's why we obtain only 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes improvement. But it's still a thing, right? And the final result is reindexation on I want to mention with 250 million ESQs, 16 threads, and as you can see, the numbers like, well, good price indexers run only for around 5 hours, and search indexer runs only 18 minutes with 16 threads. We can go even further. So if you use our cloud environments, we tested on a split architecture, so you can use all your virtual cores for the threads. So in case you have like 25 or 40 virtual cores, you can use them all for 40 threads. It will do even faster, and also you can always play with the batch sizes and just to set the needed options, like to use your memory in a proper way. So it's possible to obtain even better results with it. So yeah, with all fixes before, the indexation took like infinity amount of time, and after it was like our target was to do the whole reindex process below 9 hours, and we achieved it actually. That's it from my side. I'm happy to answer any question.
Yeah, Vitaly, we have few questions in the chat. So the first one from Jonathan: is it possible to backport customer sections improvement to 2.3 release line?
Yeah, it's already fixed in 2.3.6 version.
Okay, so it should be available like in the next release. Okay, and the next few questions from the Konstantin. The first one, the first one it's like about the presentation. So yes, we will post the links to the presentation, and they will be available after the meeting. And also the second question is, what is ESQ? Is virtual SKU, or what is it?
Yeah, it's a virtual SKU. So we have 10 million SKUs. It means that we have 10 million products, 25 million ESQs, how we count it. So basically it's amount of entities that we have in a product price indexer. So it's amount of entities that affects a price, how we count it. So we just multiply the products on website amount and multiply it on customer group amount. That's how we count it.
Okay, and the next question just appears in the chat from Safal. What about performance with shared catalogs if we use it for more than 50 companies?
So basically, companies is the same. So shared catalogs is the same right now as the customer groups, and we already tested 130 million ESQs on B2B, and we have even better performance result, even better indexation performance results. So we run indexer on that profile like within 5 hours.
Yep, sounds great. Okay, guys, I don't see any other questions in the chat, so maybe you can ask them right now. So
Yeah.
we are right on time.
So the last one question I saw that about customer admin grid indexer. No, I'm sorry, I don't have any updates regarding this.
Okay, so if there is no question, so thank you guys for attending the meeting. So yeah, see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you for hanging out with us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you, guys.